Hey, what's going on Facebook? What's going on YouTube and every other platform that this is on? What's up? What's good with you? How are you? I know it's kind of late. What is it? 10:26 p.m. I don't know who's up, who's awake at this hour. However, if you are awake at this hour, um, press the picture to see exactly what I'm talking about. Just kind of wanted to share some information with all of my guys that's up and that's awake. Come on in. I want to talk to you about a men's conference that's going to take place. Um, a men's conference that's going to take place this week. Okay. And you do not want to miss it. You definitely want to be a part of it. I promise you, you do. So if you're up and if you're listening, come on in. I'll wait a few minutes and see who's still up and who's still awake and all of that kind of good stuff. This men conference is going to take place this week, this Thursday and Friday night at 7 p.m. This is the flyer for it right here. I promise you, you do not want to miss this men's conference. So, ladies, you want to send your fellas, you want to send your men, you want to send your sons. I believe that the age is 18 and up. Yeah, I believe that the age is 18 and up, but you definitely want to send them to this conference. Send your dad, send your uncle, send all your peoples to this conference right here. Um, I promise you that we're going to have a good time because here's the truth of the matter. Here's the truth of the matter. Some men may agree with me, some men may not agree with me. It's cool. The truth of the matter is, when you look at the news, there are certain things that are happening with men, and it's happening at an alarming rate. And it's been happening for the past 5 years. About 4 years ago, I started doing posts on Facebook, and I did it for about 4 or 5 months. I started doing posts on Facebook and on my social media accounts, just trying to encourage men to get not only their bodies checked. Hey, man, get healthy, stay healthy. You have stuff and reasons to live for, family, all that kind of good stuff. But also talking about their mental health. Seriously, talking about mental health. For most men, when we start talking about mental health, it's a matter of people thinking that we crazy, or even ourselves, we're thinking that we're crazy. Well, we're not crazy. We just have some things that's going on in our mind, and sometimes we know what to do with that stuff, and then sometimes we don't. Everything that goes on in our mind is a result of things that are going on in our life, and sometimes in this life we know what to do with the stuff, and then sometimes we don't. As a man, we feel as though we're supposed to know what to do with all of this stuff that flows and that comes through our mind, everything that flows and comes through our life. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just need a little bit of help. Sometimes seeing a therapist is the right thing to do. Sometimes seeing a counselor, a professional, is the right thing to do. Sometimes saying, hey, I need help is the right thing to do. Oftentimes, as I know in the African American culture, that's not something that we're real big on. People start making fun of you, family start making fun of you, saying, oh, you're just trying to get a crazy check. I'm not crazy, but feel like I'm going crazy. I'm very sane. I understand I understand enough to know that I can't figure out what to do with everything that I'm faced with, everything that I'm dealing with, and everything that's going through my mind. I'm smart enough to understand that I don't know what to do with all of that. So sometimes it's because of embarrassment. Sometimes it's because of shame. And then sometimes it's because we just have no idea who are we supposed to turn to get the help that we need. Because is there another brother in our shoes that's going through exactly what we're going through, feeling exactly how we're feeling, married to a woman just like us, have children, have a family, have a job, have an upbringing or a background just like us, that can actually relate to whatever it is that we're saying, or whatever it is rather that we're dealing with. So what we tend to do is we tend to isolate ourselves. We tend to retreat inside of ourselves. We become an introvert when it comes to our emotions. Now we have emotions, we have feelings, and we have thoughts, but we just kind of keep them suppressed and we keep them in and we never really talk about it. Um, because once again, who am I really going to talk to about some things and they're going to really understand? It's a big fear amongst men. I don't want to be judged by another man. I try to talk to my woman about it, try to talk to a woman about it, try to talk to the woman about it. And I just kind of get ridiculed and slapped in the face later on with stuff that I share. So you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to share certain information with certain people anymore because they'll use it and slap me in my face with it. So as a man, uh, we pay attention to our physical appearance. We get haircuts and we take showers and we buy really nice smelling cologne and we like to dress nice and things of that nature. But there is a part of us that goes neglected. And sometimes the part of us that goes neglected is our emotional side, our mental side, and our mental health. We feed our bodies with our favorite foods, but do we feed our mental health? Because our mind has to be healthy. In order for us to be the men that we have been designed and purposed to be, our minds actually have to be healthy. And sometimes, let's just be honest about it, man. It's a struggle trying to keep that mind healthy. It really is. This men's conference that we're having um, Thursday night and Friday night at 5002 Wilmington, this men's conference that we're having, we met about this men's conference for about 4 or 5 months, maybe longer, maybe 6 months. And we met once a week, once every other week or something like that at Bishop R. Joseph Cook's church. Myself, Bishop Cooks, Bishop Turner, Pastor King, Pastor Kareem Jackson, um, um, Dr. Forney, several other pastors. Forgive me for not mentioning your name. Several other pastors just trying to come up with something saying, hey, what's going on, David Powell? Just trying to ask ourselves the questions like, hey, what do men, what are men really in need of? You know, we had to set aside the office that we have, whether it's bishop designate or bishop, pastor. We had to set aside the office, had to set aside the title, and just think about this from a real man or men's perspective. Like, okay, what are some of my own personal struggles? What have some of my personal struggles been? How do I deal with loss of a wife, loss of a child, loss of a parent? How do I deal with loss of a job? How do I deal with loss of finance? How did I deal with it? How do I deal with it? How do I deal with loss of respect in my own home? My wife don't respect me. My kids don't respect me. My family don't respect me. How do I deal with that? So we try to take ourselves out of the title or the offices that each of us have and just think about this from a real man's perspective. And I think that I know from this conference, if you are a real man that lives in a real world, that deal with real issues, but need some real solutions and some real answers, I can pretty much guarantee you that this conference is where you want to be this Thursday night and this Friday night at 7 p.m., 5002 Wilmington, Houston, Texas, 77033. I can guarantee you that this is where you want to be. Not all men. Okay, David, you still on here? David, if you're still on here, give me, because I'll talk to you. Give me a high five or a what's up or I'm here or something. So let's just be honest about it. Let's just talk candid and frank for a second. All right. We live in a culture, we live in a society where it's all about being a boss. It's all about being a king. Come on. It's all about being a boss. It's all about being a king. Women or they boss women. I got to be a boss. I need a boss. I'm a boss. And they call themselves boss. You know the other part. That's it. Queen this, queen that, queen this, queen that. Okay. And for men, we look at these videos. We look at celebrities. We look at athletes. And we trying to boss up. Trying to boss up. Trying to be a king. Trying to be a boss. And all of that kind of good stuff. Okay, fine. That's really what you want to do. But God never called us to be a boss. God never said, hey, boss up. That's not in the word of God. Jesus didn't come as a boss. Jesus wasn't a boss. He came as the King of the Jews. But for everyone who wasn't Jewish and for everybody, you know what he was? He was a hero. See, men are trying to be bosses and feeling intimidated and as though they don't measure up because they're not bosses. I'm still working on a job, still working a 9 to 5. Good. You taking care of your family. I'm still doing this and still punching the clock. Good. Keep punching the clock because you're taking care of what needs to be taken care of. So we have this ideology that it's time for black men or all men or whatever, brown men, that it's time for us to boss up. Boss up for what? Because bossing up don't make you a hero. Bossing up puts some money in your pocket, yeah. Bossing up makes you a CEO, and it makes you, you own the company or you own the franchise or whatever it may be, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But what we've been called to be are heroes. We've been called to be the ones who save the day. We've been called to be the ones who save the household, who save the marriage, that save the relationship, that save the ministry, that save the relationship between fathers and their children, fathers and their sons, and fathers and their daughters. A boss can't save a relationship between a man and his son, but a hero can. A boss can't save a relationship between a man and his daughter, but a hero can. A hero comes through and says, you're going to be a daddy's girl, period, point blank. A hero comes through and say, let me spit to you this real game so that the next dude that approach you can't come to you any kind of way because your hero has already hit you to some lock game. That's what a hero does. See, we trying to be bosses and we trying to look like bosses and drive what a boss drive, but forget that. I mean, I'm not tripping on that, but that's the floor, baby. That ain't the ceiling. Homeboy, being a boss is the floor. It's not the ceiling. The ceiling is when we say, you know what, I'm going to be a hero. I don't have any kids, but I'm going to be a hero to a kid that ain't got no parents. I'm going to be a hero to a young man that don't have a daddy. I'm going to be a hero to a young lady who don't have a father. I'm going to be a hero. Bosses don't make a difference in the lives of children of the next generation, but a hero can. A hero can. Because a hero knows what it means to come through and save the day. The hero knows what it means to come through and say, you know what, this is what needs to get done, and we need to have as few casualties as possible. And it's time for men. I don't care what color you are. It is time for men to stand up and be the hero that God has designed for them to be. It's time for each of us to do it. And if we're not doing it, well, then we're living beneath the standard and beneath the design that God has created for us. God created us to be heroes. Amen. God created us to be heroes, period. Now, you want to boss up and call yourself a king? Do that. But if you're not being a hero, well, then don't call yourself a king. You want to boss up? Do that. But if you're not being a hero, well, then don't call yourself a boss. Because you're putting titles over offices. Being a hero is a responsibility. If my marriage is on the brink, I got to go to God. If my marriage is on the thread, I got to go to God and ask God, what do I need to do as the leader of this house, as the leader of this marriage to save it? If my relationship with my kids is on the thread, I got to go to God and say, God, what do I need to do as the father of these children that I fathered? What do I need to do to save and repair and mend this relationship? That's what heroes do. Heroes see the deficiency in others, and then they come through and they help. They see where there's a lack and they come through, and that's what heroes do. And I believe that God has designed and called every man who is a believer in him. He has called him to be a hero. And that's what every home need. That's what every marriage need. That's what every son need, every daughter need, every niece and nephew. They need a hero. That's what they need. They do not need men that are living beneath the design that God has created for them. Since I am a pastor, a preacher, rather, I guess I'll give you some Bible on it. David was walking around his palace, and here's what he asked. He said, "Is there anyone left from the house of Saul that I may show kindness to for Jonathan's sake?" David is walking around his palace, and he says, "Is there anyone left from the house of Saul that I may show kindness to for Jonathan's sake?" Now, here's what he asks. Is there anybody left from the regime, from the reign, from the house of Saul? I want to show kindness to them, but not for Saul's sake. I want to show kindness to them for Jonathan's sake. Because David didn't make an oath or swear an oath or make a promise to Saul. He swore an oath and made a promise to Jonathan. So he's walking around his crib and he says, "Is there anyone left from the house of Saul that I may show kindness to for Jonathan's sake?" And Saul's former servant Ziba said, yeah, it's somebody. As a matter of fact, Jonathan got a son. His name is Mephibosheth. David was like, "What's his name?" "His name is Mephibosheth." He was like, "Where is he?" Ziba said, "Oh, he's in the house of Machir in Lodabar." David said, "Where?" "He's in the house of Machir in Lodabar." Now, so David said, "Well, go get him and then bring him back to me." Now check this out. Lodabar literally means place of low living. So you got the grandson of a king. You got the son of a prince that's dwelling in a place that literally means low living. There's no way that you are the grandson of a king. No way that you're the son of a prince, and you're living in a place, in a house, in a place, in a house, in a town that literally means place of low living. So David tells Ziba, he says, "Well, go get him." So Ziba goes to Lodabar, to the house of Machir, and he approaches Mephibosheth and said, "Hey, man, the king wants to see you." And Mephibosheth got scared. He was like, "Who, me?" "Yeah, you. What did I do?" "You didn't do nothing. The king just want to see you. You need to come with me." Now here's what I want us to see in this. When David found out that Mephibosheth was Jonathan's son, David had a super tight relationship with Jonathan. They were down like 4 flat tires. So much so that when Jonathan's dad was hunting for David, Jonathan gave David his sword. That's how much Jonathan loved David, and that's how much David loved Jonathan. David told Jonathan, I got you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of your seed. Don't even trip. Don't even worry about it. I got you. He swore an oath to Jonathan. So when David found out that Mephibosheth was Jonathan's son, David, because of his relationship with Jonathan, could have went and got him himself, but he didn't. Now, what David found out from Ziba was that Mephibosheth was lame in both of his feet, because when he was little and the house of Saul went under attack, the kingdom of Saul went under attack, his maid, his nurse, she grabbed him up and started running with him, but when she was running with him, she dropped him. So the question then becomes, how many men are out there, or men who have been dropped by somebody else, and now they're lame in certain areas of their life? I was one of them. I had been dropped and lame in certain areas of my life, just like Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth wasn't big enough to run fast on his own, so in an effort for somebody trying to help him and save him, they dropped him. And in dropping him, he had a spinal injury, which made him lame in both of his feet. He could not walk at all. How many of us as men have been dropped and we ain't telling nobody? How many of us as men are lame in certain areas of our thinking, areas of our life, areas of our functionality, and we ain't sharing it with anybody? Because we don't want to be judged for our deficiency. David found out that he was lame in both of his feet, so he told both his legs and his feet, so he told Ziba to go get him. Now, once again, David had a relationship with Jonathan. Mephibosheth is like your nephew. Why wouldn't you go get your own nephew? Because he's a king now. And a king don't have to go. A king can just send a word. So David sends a word with Ziba. Tell Mephibosheth to bring Mephibosheth back to me. Tell Mephibosheth that I want to see him, that I want to meet him. It's interesting here because this dude can't move his ankles. He can't move his toes. He can't move his legs. He can't move his knees. He can't move nothing below the waist. But yet a king still want to see him. A king that he's never met, a king that he's heard of, but a king that he does not know personally. Man, he has a lack in his life. He has a deficiency in his life, but he's still being met by a word. How many of us as men, we find ourselves in between what we want to be and then what we are, where we've ended up? Because a lot of time as men, we get discouraged when we do not end up where we plan to end up. Mephibosheth is living in Lodabar, in the house of Machir in Lodabar. He's literally living in the place of low living. So Ziba goes and get him. The king wants to see you. And Mephibosheth responds not to the king, but he responds to the king's word. And he gets up. They get him up, and he returns back to the palace with Ziba. He's making a trip, and he's not even having to walk. He couldn't even get himself up to make the trip. But when the king sent a word, the king sent provisions. They didn't have wheelchairs back then. But the king sent a word, so the king sent provisions. When Ziba went to go and get Mephibosheth, he took enough people with him to lift him up from wherever he was, to lift him out of whatever he was in, and put him in a new something so that he can travel to a place that he had never been, see what he had never seen, experience what he had never experienced. But the whole time it was in his bloodline to see it, to have it, and to experience it. Because keep in mind, Mephibosheth is the grandson of a king and the son of a prince. But he's living in a place of low living. He wasn't supposed to be where he is. But because of how he was, he ended up living where he was. But he was not supposed to be where he was. But because of how he was, he ended up living where he was. Sometimes as men, we are not supposed to be where we are. But because of how we are, we ended up where we are. Sometimes, as I'll say it again, sometimes as men, we're not supposed to be where we are. Not mentally, not financially, not emotionally, not spiritually, not physically, but because of how we are, we ended up living where we are and being where we are. So Mephibosheth is making a journey. He's making a journey to the palace, and when he gets before King David, David greets him, and Mephibosheth says, man, listen, I'm not nothing. As a matter of fact, I'm a dog. And watch this. David never responds to how Mephibosheth describes himself. He never responds to it. But rather he says, for your daddy's sake, and because I loved your daddy, and because your daddy and I were close, I'm giving you all of the territory that belonged to your grandfather. I'm giving you all of the land that belonged to your grandfather. And you don't even have to work this land. I'm going to give you your grandfather's servant, Ziba, and all his sons. They're going to work this land for you. This land that you didn't earn, this land that you can't work, this land that you did not buy, but this land that was always supposed to be yours, I'm going to give it to you. And it's going to come with a servant and servants and people to work this land for you. And they're going to make sure that it's always food on your table. He says, but as for you, you're going to sit at my table continually. Back up, back up, back up, back up, back up. This man, Mephibosheth, has deficiencies. Mephibosheth cannot walk. This man is lame. He didn't even walk himself in the palace. Somebody had to bring him in. Somebody had to sit him up. But what's being given to him is what he was designed and born and purposed to have. So I'm talking to us men who are lame in certain areas, lame in certain areas of our thinking, lame in certain areas of our whatever. I believe that at this conference, this Heroes in the House conference, I believe that at this conference, we'll be introduced to what we were purposed and born to have. David brought Mephibosheth there to bless him. Mephibosheth went there talking out of an insecurity. Mephibosheth started talking out of low self-esteem. Mephibosheth started talking out of where he had been living. Not what he had been purposed to be, but where he had been living. Mephibosheth started talking out of his condition. Not what he was purposed to be. Not what ran in his blood, not the royalty that ran in his blood. He started talking out of the fact that he was lame. He started talking out of the fact that he couldn't walk. He started talking out of the fact that he lived in a place that literally meant low living. Mephibosheth started talking out of his condition, not his connection. And as men, that's what we have the temper. That's what we have the propensity to do. We have the propensity to talk out of our condition, not our connection. So God says, what I'm trying to do for men, I'm not talking to women right now. So if you're a woman and you're watching, feel free to watch. But wake your husband up, or wake your boyfriend up, or wake your son up, because I'm talking to them. As men, what we have to do is respond to God out of our connection with him and not out of the condition that we are currently in. It was not Mephibosheth's fault that he was lame, but it was his problem. There are some things as men, it ain't our fault. It's not my fault that my daddy was the way he was, but it was my problem growing up. It's not my fault that other people have made the decisions that they made in their life that has affected my life, but it is my problem to contend with and to deal with. As men, we deal with a lot of stuff that's not our fault, but it is our problem to deal with. And we struggle. And we find ourselves just trying to live in the next comfortable place, even if the next comfortable place is not our place of purpose. When we struggle with our mental health, when we struggle with our emotional health, when we struggle as men, we find ourselves just trying to live and survive in the next comfortable place, even if that place is not our place of purpose. So God has to send a word to come and lift us out of our comfortable place and escort us, drive us, lead us, guide us, and carry us to our place of purpose. And that's what this conference Thursday night has been designed to do. You're going to have years, we're going to have years and years of wisdom from men in that room. I'm telling you, we're going to have years of wisdom. You can't get wisdom without years of struggle. You can't have years of strength without having years of pain. You can't have years of power without knowing what years of weakness feel like. So when I make the statement and I say we're going to have years of wisdom in that room, what I'm saying but not saying is this: it's going to be years of pain, years of weakness, years of insecurity in the room as well. But who managed and who was able to come out of that in spite of the deficiencies, and still live out the purpose in which God has created and designed them to live, because that's what men need. And that's what we have to do as men. Now, I know men don't want to hear this. I know they don't, but it's the truth. I know you see it on TV. Men will talk not to cry. It's really men out there in this city, in this state, in this world that were told real men don't cry. Real G's suffer in silence. Real men don't show emotion. Real men don't cry. I know you think that's only on TV shows, but it's not. That's real. That's real. Men that were called a sissy for crying, called a faggot for crying, called a punk for crying, called gay for showing emotion. So they sucked it up and quit. I'm just saying. I'm tired of seeing these men killing these women and killing these children in our news. And I know you are too. I'm tired of seeing these boyfriends shooting a girlfriend 22 times. We can argue the bond thing all we want to. 22 times? Come on, man. One time is one shot too many. We don't know how to heal women no more. We don't. We don't know how to heal our families anymore. We don't know how to heal and restore our children anymore. We trying to boss up. We ain't got time to heal nothing. We trying to be a king. We ain't got time to heal nothing. I've never purposed to be anybody's hero in this life except my children. That's it. Except my children. And before I had children, I only purposed to be a hero to the children that I was their youth pastor. My son looks at me as his hero. Not Dr. King, not Malcolm X, me. Not Kanye West, not Marcus Garvey. I'm his hero. Because that's what I've always positioned myself to be in his life. I'm all my kids' hero. Because that's what I've positioned and purposed myself to be in their lives. I've been hero for kids that don't even belong to me. Because that's what I've positioned and purposed myself to be in their lives. Not a boss, not a king, not a real G, none of those things. All of those things are great, but none of those things. I mean a hero, a real hero. Men, your children, your sons and your daughters should not have to look around you and outside of you to find a hero. They should be able to look to you. And if they can't look to you, well, there's something wrong and we need to get that thing fixed. We need to get that straightened out. And I don't want you tripping thinking, well, they grown now. I don't care. It ain't, no. As long as they still alive, they're still breathing and you're still breathing, it can still happen. It's never too late to become the hero that we've been designed and purposed to be. So, okay, that's 30, 34 minutes. That's enough time. This coming Thursday night and Friday night, there's a conference. Heroes in the House. Men, you don't want to miss this meeting. Be a hero and bring another hero with you. And every man stood in his place. This is our men's conference, October the 27th and 28th at 7 p.m. It's hosted by Evangelistic Restoration, 5002 Wilmington Street, Houston, Texas, 77033. The registration is $10. The conference t-shirt is $15. If you want to go online and register, you can go right down here to heroesinthehouse.org, and you can register. Now listen, If you don't have the $10, don't worry about it. I got you. If you want a t-shirt, you say, Pastor, man, listen, dude, I want to come. I don't have $10. I don't get paid till Friday. The conference starts Thursday. I got it. I get you. I understand. Come. I got you on your registration and I got you on your t-shirt. Okay? Still need you there. Just to give you an idea of some of the people that are going to be there. I can't make that bigger, but you have Bishop Walter Turner, Bishop R. Joseph Cooks, Pastor Kareem Jackson, Bishop Cooper, Bishop Forney, Pastor King. These are some, along with several other pastors who's partnering along with this. Listen, this is just to name a few that's going to be there. This is going to be an awesome event that you do not want to miss. This is the Heroes in the House Conference. I'm going to come on tomorrow night or tomorrow at some point, tomorrow during the day, maybe a couple times. And I'm going to give us some more insight on why men need to be heroes and what it looks like for us to be a hero. All right? For those of you who tuned in, who logged in, thank you so much. God bless you. May God keep you. Don't forget this coming Thursday, this coming Friday, 5002 Wilmington. You can go to heroesinthehouse.org to register. If you don't have the 10, register anyway. If you don't have the 15, tell them your t-shirt size anyway. I'll take care of it. Just mention my name. I promise you I'll take care of it. I got you. But you do not want to miss this. No, we're not on the radio. We're not on 92.1. I'm not being interviewed by AV. None of that. We're going to do this the old-fashioned way. We're going to do this word of mouth, and every man is going to tell another man, because I'm not going to let you struggle. I'm not going to let you fall. I'm not going to let you die. Not on my watch. I'm going to connect my arm with yours, and you're going to lock your arm in mine. And if the devil want you, he got to take me too, and I don't come easy. And I put up a major fight. But I'm not giving you over. I refuse to turn you over to mental health conditions. I refuse to turn you over to horrible emotional conditions. I refuse to turn you over to insecurities, to low self-esteem, to not feeling like you are enough, not feeling like you are a man. I refuse to turn you over to that. Not on my watch. It's some brothers that feel just like I feel, and we got you. And any help that we cannot provide, we're going to help get you the help that you need. I promise you we are. Everything that there may be some things that you may need that we're not qualified for. We're going to make the connection, put you with the qualified entities that can help you with your needs. You have to become the hero that God has designed and created you to be. You have to. And I'm going to do my part in helping you do that. All right? Well, that's all I got. I will see you on tomorrow talking about the same thing, becoming a hero. Listen, don't worry about your deficiencies. I know you've been dropped in your life. Somebody dropped you. And so they left you lame. And it wasn't your fault. But it has been your problem. There's a word from God that's calling you out of Lodabar. There's a word from God that's calling you out of a place of low living. That's calling you out of a place of low thinking. That's calling you out of a place. We got to live above it. There's a word that God has for you that's coming to get you, to escort you out of whatever that place may be. All right? May the grace and the peace of God be with you. I'll see you all on tomorrow night. God bless.